Miss Crow. Yo, Brick Finger. Yo, Serena Donnelly. Free Ballin' Bear, thanks for letting us know. Max E. Is it possible to walk on water? Not for a man, not for an ordinary man. Please don't take the moon landing away from me. It was always taken from you. You never had it. You never had it. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. I unblocked Sean Hawkins just because just want to be graceful. But you know, he's got some problems. He's got some problems. Don Pettit is a living legend. He is in his own field, and which is not astrophysics or space travel. It's just his field of entertainment. He's a legend. One of the greatest caricatures ever, really. So, anyway, I keep pushing people who give me shit about pressure without a container, and they just don't seem to get it. Because the question is really simple. Can you have gas pressure without a container? And then they go, yeah, of course, look at the atmosphere. And you're like, that's what's in question. Can you do it again, please? That's what's assumed to not have a container. Can you show me an example of a gas pressure without a container? That's not the atmosphere, because that's the thing in question. Okay? Sheesh. Take the Lazarus challenge. They can't think like that. I don't know why. It's so clear. I was also watching, I revisited that Tom Jump guy. He's basically like, he's just like Powdered Toast Man from Ren and Stimpy as a broken philosopher. And, I don't know, he was talking to someone, and they asked him, how does he ground his metaphysics and like logic and the existence of, you know, truth, numbers, meaning, all this stuff, basically. And he says he doesn't need any source other than the laws of nature. I mean, this is how retarded these people are. Not only are the laws of nature a law, the laws of nature can't justify the tools required to discover and discern the laws of nature. Oh, look, the laws of nature. Oh, shit, I'm using language. Oh, damn, I assume I exist. Oh, damn, I need logic. Oh, no, the law of identity. Oh, no, numbers. Meaning. You need those things to discover and to even apprehend any law, let alone laws like law of nature. But Tom Jump, I call him T Pumper. He seems to not realize the ridiculousness of the claim that the laws of nature can justify all of the tools that you need to distinguish the laws of nature. It makes me want to send him an envelope of poop. Gas pressure cannot be contained, mostly due to structural fires and the office fires in the buildings. It's insanity. T-Pump in the house. Measures of the measured. Yeah, like time. That's why space-time, that's why people like Sean Dawkins, or whatever his name is. I don't even know if that's his name. Anytime these guys are cornered and you say, hi. It's a really simple question. It's really fun, actually. If you get into it with some friend over a beer and they're like, yeah, this is bending in space-time. Just don't go nuts. Don't say, you know, Einstein was a pervert and all. Just ask, oh, excuse me, what are the physical properties of space-time such that they can be bent? They won't even know what to do. They'll order another beer even though they don't need one. Or you ask, oh, really? They figured out that space-time warps? Interesting. And then you ask, in what space and time could they possibly discern that? In other words, space and time are space is the absence of matter. So in space, we can view matter. Time is the tool we use to measure changes in magnitude. Matter interacting, cause and effect, experimentation. Okay, so you need time and space to do any sort of experiment to determine what happened. So the thing that happened was the bending of space-time happened. And you're like, do you understand that you need to be in time and space, and that needs to be constant for you to verify that time and space bent? So are you saying there's two different times in space? Because that's what must occur. That's what must be true. And that violates the law of identity. And that's what relativity all is, all of it. The entire model, the entire lens, which isn't even that old, by the way, but everyone thinks we somehow got somewhere. Oh, yeah, we get, the development since Einstein and, the development since Newtonian gravity. You're like, no development, actually, because you can't ever know anything. You can't ever know anything. It's insanity. Yes. I mean, no. I mean, yes. No. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you. It's so easy. It's almost so easy this is the trick. It's so easy to refute that the common man doesn't do it. They're just like, they don't think to do it because they think it's so hard. They're like, oh, I can't go up against the tongue man. I can't question that stuff. I'll get kicked out of the group. It's a valid concern. You don't want to be kicked out of the group, but sometimes it's required. Which leads me to another topic. I wonder this. And tell me your guys' opinion about this. If you have conviction, especially if you're a Christian, is anonymity inconsistent with conviction, with faith? There's something, I can't scripturally ground it because I just don't have access or know enough by heart. But I'm wondering if conviction is inconsistent with anonymity. Because it's really easy to be anonymous. It's really easy to present something and your beliefs, but then never be questioned face to face because you don't show your face. Or never have to defend it because you don't have a face or a name. And there's something, like, I respect creators for what they create, like what they make, humor, whatnot, comics. But there's something that irks me about anonymity. There's something really gay about it. And I wonder if the mask thing is just the reflection, just an expression that needed to happen, like bubbling water, that merely expressed a society that had already had enough men already wearing a mask. through their privateness, through their cloak, through their digital cloak. And I get it. You want to protect your family. There's a certain barrier of protection you want, whether it's physical or information. But when it comes down to it, you should be known by your face and your name. And I strongly believe that. And that the risk of having your face out there is secondary to the risk of not showing your face, or the effect that will have, or the justification for other men to hide their face. I don't like people who hide their face. In fact, I don't even get to know if I like them or not because they hide their face. I need another music stream with Jim Bob on the guitar. I will. I'll do that. I've got some things to do. I got accepted to be a creator on Rockfin. Thanks. Shout out to Jason Lingram for that connection. So I'll be putting more stuff up on there as well. I gotta figure out. I'm still uploading like branding and stuff or whatever. But yeah, I'll do another music stream. No face people are probably Aryans, Ryans. Blood snorting JP. Yeah, he's definitely in the cartoon. Will eventually do a line of dried. What is it called? It's not just dried. Is it? It's not petrified. Pulverized? Powderized? Calcified? I don't know. Hello, bigots. Anyway, I get it. I get why people would hide their face. But something sketchy about it. Something sketchy about it. Masks are another way to demoralize people. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it also gives them this amazing sense of shielding, but also a sense that they're a hero and they're a victim. I always thought since the beginning, I was like, wow, this is one hell of a narrative. I mean, a narrative where people can play a permanent game of Punk'd, and they're given a costume, and then the costume is associated with a purpose, a virtuous purpose of saving lives. But they get to be the victim, and they get to be the hero and the judge. They get to be both at the same time. It is truly fascinating. And that's why it's illogical. That's why it violates the law of identity, and it's an indicator of insanity. You know a narrative's false when any player in the narrative, or a huge amount of players in the narrative, are playing both the victim and the hero at the same time. Because that means the narrative's not based in truth. That means what's true isn't just true. Because if the narrative was true, the part you play in the stance you take would be solid. You would either be the hero or the victim. And I know things are a little more complex than that, given small details and changes in knowledge and whatnot. But for the most part, that's the case. People are both going to die at any moment, and they've done all of the things where they're not going to die, but they still might die even though they did all the things. So it's insanity. 2-acre North Dakota bear. I'm seriously looking at North Dakota, by the way. 2-acre. So I'm looking for about 2 acres. Have you ever thought about how much updraft and violent lift there needs to be to create large hail baseball. No, I don't understand hail, actually. I know it's probably really simple transformation of energy and form, because that's all anything ends up being. If you remove Wired magazine. But no, I've never thought about that. But we will, maybe in our lifetime, but definitely in the lifetime of humanity in the story, there will be basically basketball size hail. What do you think shooting stars are? I don't know, because I have no idea what a star is. So a star that's shooting, I certainly don't know what it is. But I know when I visited Owen and he let me use those high-end military night vision glasses, you would normally think, oh, I saw a shooting star. No, there's a lot more going on, and it doesn't make any sense. For instance, in any given direction, you will see a star stationary, what we call a star, and that thing move not at an accelerating speed, just at a constant speed from start to finish. And you can track it and it'll just stop. And not just one, not like some anomaly. Like you see a lot of it. And it's like, okay, that's not a plane. You're like, oh, it's a helicopter. No, it's not. No, it's way up there. It's not blinking. And these things are happening all the time. I mean, all you need is a clear night, get away from the city, and a pair of $8,000 glasses. You know, the change in the narrative and the way that they're going to, the modern scientismos, the monopolists of cosmology, NASA and whatnot, Neil Tyson and Schmierstash. This is the thing, is as these technologies, i.e. $8,000 night vision, or infrared, or long distance telescopes, like when for instance the P900 is an example. As these technologies become cheaper and more ubiquitous and in the hands of common man, they're going to have to drastically change their explanations to account for what is now seen by most people. And my prediction is that what's seen by most people is going to drastically counter what's been the narrative for some time. And we've never experienced this level of technology in the hands of common men, in the context of what we're looking at, which is the sky, the heavens, the constellations, whatever it is. There's going to be a lot of questions that aren't going to be answered properly. Could they be angels? I have no idea. I do have a theological book about stars. And it's called A Witness to the Stars. And it basically takes what is now ridiculous astrology, but it takes just the astrology as it is, not the interpretation of astrology, just astrology as it is, the shapes, the names, and it attempts to lock them in scripturally. I don't know how well it does, because I don't have a well enough grasp or study of the Bible in its entirety to properly critique it. But it's interesting. COVID goggles. Oh, yeah, definitely. Hey, Jim Bob, can you address sometime how feminism was and is being used to justify wars and military interventions? Feminism. Well, I mean, feminism, someone once said, if you want to start a war, change a culture's idea of a woman. I forgot his name. But that's like really true, because you think war is mostly about resources. It's about terrestrial gain of ideology, theology, or just brute takeover, rape, pillage. Oh, that would be under resources. But there's certainly ideological warfare, and changing the meaning of man and woman is an act of war. The attempt to subvert long-lasting foundations that account for the distinction between men and women. If you start trying to remove those bricks, you're at war. You don't need uniforms or guns. You are at war. And all war, the antecedent to war, is ideological. It is moral. It is, we ought to do this. I ought to own this land. You ought not to be like that. You know, all of these arguments that are before any violence happens. You know, so not to say that violence can't emerge what appears to be spontaneous. I don't really believe in spontaneity. I think even a riot or a group of people, not even a riot, just a group of people in an area packed like sardines, a concert, Woodstock, what have you, you already have the ingredients for what looks to be outright war. All you need is a trigger point. All you need is the right amount of ingredients at the right time. And humans are, they're always on the verge of being of the world. They're always on the verge of appealing to their animal sense. That's why religion is so important. That's why metaphysics is so important, and philosophy. It keeps humans separate from animals. It makes an argument that thinking alone, that using logic alone, reasoning, that even assuming there's truth and we ought to pursue it, is already a distinction from animal. And so that's why it's important to understand that side of us. But yeah, in short, feminism is a cultural warfare that could result in real war or not. It doesn't matter. It has its own job. It has its own job. And that inversion has consequences, because if you can invert what a woman is, you can invert what a man is. If you can invert what those two are, you can invert what truth is. You can attempt to. And I'm not talking about you can, like you're able to, because you can't actually invert what a man is. That's why I argue, my argument aside, if I were to put aside the moral argument of homosexuality, men or women, is that you can't have sex. The two sexes can't have sex. I'm a homosexual. Oh, really? How do you have sex? What? Are you serious? Are you serious? No, you can't. Well, I'm attracted. The best you can do is that there are human beings who have an attraction to the same sex. But that even reveals the illogical issue, which is, so you're admitting that you're sexually attracted to the same sex. That assumes the word sex, that you can actually procreate with the same sex. You can't. You can't even have sex, let alone procreate. How do you can't. You just can't do the act for what it is and what it's designed for and what the biological definition of it is. And that's why all of these inversions of sex follow with the name sex, starting with homosexuality, following with any other forms of sexual inversion. So to call them that, you're not having sex, because eventually you're going to, say there's such a thing as ear sex, right? Oh, ear sex? Have you ever done ear sex? It's not sex. You're just doing things with your sexual organs, and that's it. Whatever it is. And that's where it goes. That's the Pandora's box of inversion, is that as soon as you invert one fundamental truth, you have to accept all other inversions. And that's what modern progressivism is. And that is the war on truth. It's not a war on women. It's a war on God. We always stop. There are these libertarians. There's these people who are atheists, but they still argue for truth, and they love being against the leftists, right? They're plentiful on Gab and other places. And they stop with just that. They're like, oh, this is nonsense. You people are insane. And yet they don't see the deeper picture that to argue for fundamental foundational truth, you have to transcend what's natural. You have to that order needs to be grounded metaphysically at a higher level of truth. But a lot of them don't do it. They stop. They go, no, it just is. Laws of nature. Well, okay. If you appeal to the laws of nature, then you can't use the laws of nature to argue we ought to stick to the laws of nature. You can't. It's a metaphysical argument. It's philosophical. If you convert someone's views of the world, can you invert just about any? Yeah. If you convert any truth, you have to accept every inversion, every iteration. That's why progressivism is a tail, snake eating its tail, because every previous acceptance of ridiculousness is then rejected via trend. It's like that's why if you hear someone say progressivism, it's appropriate that they call it that, because it's the opposite. It's progress toward what? You can't have progress in a relativistic world. You have to accept everything's just arbitrary. Progress based on who? Who says progress? That's why the only actual objective basis for progress is truth. That's the only progress there can be, is toward truth. Everything else is arbitrary. Everything else is subjective. It's given by a pragmatic view of the world, where you want things to be, and these kinds of things. The atheist anti-progressives are stuck in the conservative everything went wrong today trap. Yeah, they never pull back. They're safe in saying this is ridiculous. They're safe in saying, well, this is not what I mean by liberty. They're classical liberals. That's what it is. They're offended and they feel stepped over. They feel like they're being misrepresented with the term liberal, because they're like, that's not liberalism. I'm fighting for real liberalism. You're like, what's that? And you're like, Crowleyism. Crowley, do as thou wilt. Do as thou wilt. Pursue your own passions. Ayn Randian bullshit. And they stop there, and they're being, it's like, it's a territorial. It's just like the conservatives, like, you're not conservative. It's not to say that shouldn't exist. That you ought not to call people out who claim to be one thing or another. I just did it yesterday with the Christian whose worldview reduces certain people unworthy of God's love, basically. Certain people based on things, the assumption that we're all not equal under God's eyes. I mean, that's inverted theology. It actually can't be true if you say you're Christian. You just can't have that. You could make value judgments about people, but once you get to the point where you treat them, or you assume they're unfixable, is a pragmatic argument with a Christian flag. The argument is, we don't want your kind in our culture, which is fine. You can make that statement. There are divisions of nations and peoples, biblically. But once you get to the level, if you were to be honest with your own theology, you would be praying for the ones you find who are, in their terms, many times hook-nosed goblins. It's all about the rejection. Crowleyanism is a conclusion of relativism. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, what are you progressing from and to? Yeah, where from, where to? That's why the branches of philosophy are so important to know and to isolate when people are missing one, or when one of them is out of touch with the other two. And those are epistemology, which is, your account for knowledge. They say ethics, but I like to say morality. I almost reject the word ethics. I feel like ethics is your way out of morality. It's like, yeah, but what's just agree upon? What's considered okay? Morality and metaphysics. That's why a really quick, sharp dagger to someone's philosophy is, how do you account for the existence of the laws of logic and truth? What do you mean? It just is. It just is. And you go, okay, do you accept logic? And they're like, yeah. And you're like, well, just is ad hoc. Just isn't good enough. That's why the part of the Enlightenment people and the constitutionalists who just say it's self-evident, no, that's lazy. It's self-evident that there's truth in the laws of logic and reasoning and math and all. No, you're just borrowing from God, and then your lazy ass and your feather pens and your tight little stockings, your little booties and your wigs, so you don't have to deal with, oh, that has to actually have a source too. These things are conceptual. They need sources. No, they don't. You just have the Constitution. It's good enough. These things are self-evident. No, they're not. Self-evident because I can't explain the evidence. Yeah, exactly. It's so lazy. It's like, I am a horse. It's self-evident. You can't even refute that. Because once you say, well, it's not evident to me, and then you're like, well, it's evident to me. Self-evident. Self. If it goes to the self as the source, then, that only works, in my view, with revelation, with a relationship with God, with prayer. But in which case, you're not arguing to someone else. That doesn't mean it's relative either. But you don't claim it's self-evident. You don't claim to someone else that they ought to see your relationship because it's self-evident. No, you at least be honest and say it's faith-based. And some Christians don't like to go that route. They want evidence. They want to participate in the atheist worldview. They want to argue within the classical foundational model of correspondence. How can I prove it? And they try to go to nature, and they try to go to, the cosmological argument and the complexities and all these things, which to them are clear that they require a mind. But they're still grappling with their own faith. They're thinking that if they come back to faith as their position, that means they lost the argument. But you didn't. And here's why. It's the same reason I always say any argument against the existence of God can be used against the existence of truth. Your atheist buddies are assuming faithfully in truth. They're actually, ironically, arguing against the existence of God by using something that requires the same amount of faith, called truth. So you don't lose when you appeal to faith. You win when you get your opponent, and he's not your true enemy or opponent, oppositional view, to admit they have faith in truth. They have faith in reasoning, knowledge, laws of logic, meaning, words, language, math, numbers. They have faith in the regularity of nature. They have faith in it. In fact, they have so much faith in the regularity of nature and the laws of physics that when they are both suspended, they refuse to see it as a miracle. Yet, the existence of these things, the regularity of nature, the existence of fundamental absolute truth, an entire metaphysical category none of us can get away from, yet they don't see the existence of those things as miraculous itself. They don't see existence as a miracle. Completely inconsistent with what we know material can produce. That's not miraculous for them. That's why I always find it funny that a miracle is often defined as the suspension of things we know to operate a certain way. And yet the materialist will be like, no, there's still another way it can physically be understood. Then it wouldn't be a miracle. So they can figure that out and it'd be valid. But I always found it funny that it's always the suspension of this regularity that seems miraculous rather than the existence of its regularity at all. It's all faith. No, I don't have faith. I know it. It's like I asked that one guy, you have faith in the truth. Why? There's no evidence. Well, the evidence for truth is scientific. Oh, really? Which experiment did you do where it produced faith? Or truth, I mean. You have faith in the truth. Yeah, but it's scientifically proven. No, it's not. Where? Which flask? Which chemicals did you put together? And then, the result of it was this exploding new immaterial concept called truth. It's ridiculous. That's why Tom Jump, he's just like a little nobody guy like me. You can't appeal to the laws of nature to justify the immaterial tools you need to discern the laws of nature. You can't do it. It's not, if you accept logic, which you do by faith, there's no logic in nature. You can't find it under a rock. There's no laws under the rock. There are no concepts in the tree, regardless of how much you listen to James True. There are concepts in the land. Saturn wished me well tonight, hoping you'd sleep through. My trauma I give you, we alchemize in the morning when I pop a squat on your hunting vest. I was inside you last night while you were sleeping by the fire. The salt of the land melted in the pot. And I imbibed your internals, and you did not know. And it was witness that I bared that give you your life. Amen. Someone send me a super chat and buy my book. I'm not against super chats or selling books, by the way. T-Pump loves peer review. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's like, it's been peer reviewed that they figured out how that truth exists. Will volume 1 and 2 ever be made again? No. What will be made is a golden memes collection, which is the collection of the best from 1, 2, and 3 volumes into one beautiful, maybe golden book, maybe a black book with gold letters, maybe a really beautiful tealish blue with gold letters, something nice. I mean, the books are nice, but I mean, sweet. Anyway, I got to wrap this up. Short day for me. Anyway, I hope you got something from this. I got something. Every time I talk to you guys, I'm thinking through a lot of stuff too. And so, anyway, I'll probably see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to try to do a mom bob tomorrow and talk about, I don't even know. I don't know what I'm going to talk about. But if you want, when I post this to YouTube, you can tell me what you think I should talk about in tomorrow, if tomorrow is my mom bob stream. All right? All right. God bless you guys.